Good evening, Mr. Ambassador, and welcome to Business and Leisure.
Good evening, Butch.
With your kind permission, Mr. Ambassador, let's get the viewers know you better by going back a few years to your childhood. Where did you spend it? In Italy, I suppose.
Well, most of my childhood I actually spent in Italy, but I also traveled quite extensively because my father was also a foreign service official, so I followed him in other countries. But I studied, all my course of studies was in Italy.
May we give our viewers an idea about your education? Like, what were your interests then? Did these interests affect your career decisions in adulthood? Or is it possible that somewhere along the way you faced a crossroad in deciding which career path to pursue?
Well, I must say that since childhood I was always attracted to the abroad, to going abroad, to foreign states, to foreign people, partly because of the profession of my dad. So I always liked to start studying foreign languages. I started with English, of course, and French, and I always was attracted by some dimension of international dimension of a job.
Tell us, please, when and how did you start on government service? What government posts did you hold before you embarked on a diplomatic career?
Actually, the diplomatic career was my first government job, first and only government job. So I've been loyal to the foreign service all my life. I joined in 1981 through public exams, as that's the only way to join the foreign service. In fact, in our system, we have only civil servants performing the jobs in the diplomatic service. We don't have so far any history of political appointees.
Kindly give us an idea, Mr. Ambassador, of the different countries that you've been assigned to prior to your posting here in the Philippines.
My first posting after the initially spending 3 years at the headquarters in Rome was New York. I was assigned as a young vice consul to the Italian Consulate General in New York. I spent 4 years there, performing my duties and learning on the job. And I had vivid and very exciting memories of that time. First, because it was my first foreign country where I served. Second, because New York is New York, of course. So, the dream of many young professionals is to go to that city. And so I had a wonderful time. I learned on the job. Most of my activities was being closely in touch with the Italian and Italian-American communities, which I learned how to appreciate and how to interact with. That was a great, great experience.
We would be very interested to know your first impressions of the Philippines when you were sworn in, and how about your impressions now?
That's right. I was assigned in the Philippines in 1988. That was my second assignment, right after New York, in fact. And I was very excited at that time and very happy of being assigned in Manila. I arrived here in a period which was very exciting for the Philippines. It was the second year of the Korea Aquino administration, with administration which was very popular in Europe because it was, in a way, the return of democracy. So there was a lot of energy, a lot of excitement. Italy also did its part. We launched a very meaningful, a very important program of ODA to help the development of the Philippines. So I had, those 4 years were really very, very full, very exciting, very rewarding professionally also. And many of those memories I carried back with me. Many of those experiences I carried back with me in my in my return to the Philippines, where I presented my credentials to President Aquino in January 2013. That's when I arrived to the Philippines. And I remember during our conversation that I told him that I was particularly happy to come back to this country and to work under his presidency after having worked under his mom's presidency. He was very amused and pleased by that.
Mr. Ambassador, can you give us an idea of your efforts to further enhance the trade relations between our countries?
We have meaningful trade relations that are, in a way, they are below what they could be, actually. We have a great potential that we haven't fully exploited yet. Our data show numbers that are below $1 billion interchange, both ways. I think it could be much higher, so we are also working to intensify our trade relations. But on the other hand, of course, these are data that don't include the data of goods and services that come through other ways, for example, transit through Hong Kong or through Singapore, which are substantial. So probably the real figures are quite higher. Anyway, we are working to intensify these relations. We know that there is a quite important number of sectors that we could promote in the Philippines. We have a large expertise in several fields, be it energy, green energy, environment, biomedics, specialized technology, for example, medical technologies, pharmaceuticals, you name it. Italy is a highly technological country, quite specialized in some sectors. What most of the customers, most of the people see is, of course, the fashion, the sport cars, and shoes, luxury shoes, and so on, which are parts of the narrative of the Italian lifestyle, which is legendary around the world. We are happy and proud of that, but that's not all you can get from Italy. There is a lot more, and we are working to that purpose.